Okay, I have a couple other tricks to tell you about when it comes to animating a character. Here I have my little uh, violet character here. I just have a very simple animation so far of her waving her arm and tilting her head and a small change in her expression. And I've done this all with basic keyframe animation here. If I toggle down, we can look at the shoulder. And if I press R on my keyboard, you'll see the rotation has been keyed. And let's look at what those keys look like here. And the same is true for the elbow and the wrist. We have a slight, a couple keys of animation that just make those joints rotate. I've also changed the position here as a way to cheat. The drawing is not, the anchor position of this is not quite right. But I've also, if I press P, you can see the position, and I've also set some keys for the position just to have that shoulder drop down a little bit. So I think that, sometimes joints move a bit and they also do rotate. So you can use both of those methods to get your characters kind of rigid forms in their organic shape to move. When it comes to the expression here, it was pretty simple. This is the main expression that I created last week in Illustrator, but I also created an ellipse. So I have here in group 10 is the smile. And if you press T on your keyboard, that's going to give me the opacity that will open up opacity for all for everything that's in that shape layer. But I did key the opacity here within the stroke. Let's see where it is here. What's been keyed? Oh, this group 10, right there. So my transform group, I've keyed the opacity, and let me zoom in here just so you can see that from one frame to the other. I have the opacity at 100, and on the next frame it drops to 0, and that's when the expression changes. And it's very simple. I created an ellipse with my ellipse tool, and then I also keyed the opacity here. So let's deselect here and quickly, I also put in a bit of a head rotation. And remember, let me twirl this up. We have all of these parent links here. So when the face moves, the expression moves, and the hair also moves. So those are both the facial expression and the hair here are parented to the face. So that's how I would really recommend animating a character. There is one other way that I wanted to make you aware of. And the other thing that you can also think about here is kind of making pre-compositions. So, for example, this arm motion, like if I was to create, let's say, a walk cycle for this character, I can pre-comp the leg motion. And then I will show you what that looks like. If you go up here to let's see, composition, and where's pre-comp? Precompose here under layer. So let's say I have this hand, elbow, and shoulder. I want this to be a pre-comp. I can go over here to composition and say layer precompose, and I'll just say right arm. And now those have all dropped into their own composition. So this is something that can be useful, let's say. Right now this will start to become bizarre, but let's just say that I want to make a character that has multiple arms, multiple right arms. If I make another composition here, I can then drop in a number. I can drop these pre-comps, and then I can also have them start and end at different places. Okay, so the reason that that's something that could be useful is let's say you have, and this character that I've created is face on. But if I have a side view and I'm doing a walk cycle, I might only want to create one leg. I can pre-comp that leg and then make them both walk. So I only have to do the keyframes for that one leg. And this is just to give you an example of it. So why I want to meet with each of you individually this week, if possible through Zoom, is to see where your characters are at and then give you direction one-on-one on how to best animate. Let me go back to my little character here. And I do have her starting still in this T pose. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Command D, and that will duplicate this composition. And then I'm going to expose all of my rotations, and I'm going to reset. And what this will do, and it's not necessary here, but if I come down to my elbow, I can, and shoulder reset, it will bring this back to its T pose. And I might want to do the same thing for the position. Let's see. Reset the position. Oh, now it's going to bring it to the center. Let me find a better position, or rather, let's go to the beginning of this animation here. Let's duplicate again, Violet 3, and open this, and zoom back out right here. And now let me toggle out all of the keyframes that we have, and I'm going to turn off all of the keys that I've already created for these. I have my right arm here now, which is a pre-comp, so the right arm might continue to do what it's going to do. Let me actually undo these and get rid of that pre-comp. That was just to show you what that would look like if you want to use that method. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. Click in here, get back to the beginning where I have my T pose, and again press R to open up all the rotations, and I'm going to get rid of my keys. Just by clicking the stopwatch, that should erase my keys. Because I want to show you one other method for creating, and let me also now select everything here and do the position and get rid of my position keys as well. Let's see if I have any others. I think it was just that one shoulder. Okay, so now I have my little characters back in her T pose, and there is another way that we can animate a character that, or it's a way that maybe we can, after we've done some rotation around those anchor points, after we've rigged the character, we can kind of fine tune some of the motion here. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is to show you what I mean. We're going to be using this tool here, which is the puppet tool, puppet pin tool, the puppet advanced pin tool. So what I'm going to first do is let me go into my elbows, my right elbow and my left elbow. toggle out that rotation, and I'm just going to rotate these up. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, because I would like to have her kind of raise her arms a little bit. So using this pin tool, what I'm going to do is kind of drop some pins, and I want to be using this Puppet Advanced Pin tool. And what I'm going to do is, what I'm first going to do is I'm not necessarily going to work on this in, I'm going to use this Violet 3. I'm going to create a new composition with it because I want the puppet tool to be working with the entire, with one layer. So here I have my little violet. We might actually get that expression. I have these socks are changing colors. Let me go back in here and get rid of that expression change just really quickly. And see where those keys are. Bring this back up to 100. Okay, so using this method of changing the opacity on the expression is a way that you can, it's a pretty simple way to transition between facial expressions. You obviously can also go into the path and modify the paths of each of these facial features to get the character to kind of talk. And that's a much more advanced method that I don't think we're going to dive into with this semester. There are many tutorials online on how to do that kind of thing. So what I want to do is use this puppet pin tool. And now that I have my comp 1 here, where I have my little character with her arms raised, what this pin tool does is it creates kind of anchor points on, it's made a 2D mesh out of this character, out of the shapes that are in this composition. Let me move this around a little bit. Oh, I'm already starting to deform it. And it allows you to deform the mesh. So basically what we're creating are, let's show the mesh here. We're creating what's called a mesh. And you can, here we can expand the mesh, or we can add greater density to it. But let me just show you what these pin tools do. They create anchor points, and the mesh itself, right, shows a kind of sphere of influence that each of these points do on your character. So if I go ahead and move this pin, I'm moving the mesh. And so this pin is now influencing the mesh around it. Okay, so I've created some pins on her wrists and on her elbows. Let me create one more here. And now if I go to my select tool and I select these pins and I go to move them, I'm kind of moving all of her. So what I'm really going to want to do is create enough pins as if I'm creating a kind of skeletal rig. So now, I'm not moving all of her. So the pins that are not selected will stay in place. And the pins that are selected when I move, well, now she will move her arms. And what's nice about this method is that we can actually, using this pin tool, if I press Command on my Mac, or I believe it's Alt on a PC, what I'm able to do is record keys in real time. And you see there's some strange deformations going on in her arm that we would have to get rid of by using what's called a Puppet Starch pin tool to keep some of the positions Let's see if I put a starch pin here, what that will look like. And now let's play the animation from the beginning. So we have a little bit of less bending of the arm, so it kind of stiffens the arm. Maybe put another starch pin tool right here and play. But what I'm able to do is kind of create some motion in the character. And this is something I can do maybe after I've done my main keyframe animation to add more organic motion into my character. So let me just quickly go back over. Let's go back into this character here. And if I want to make her, let's say I want to make her jump. Using this idea of pre-comps will be useful. After she has this expression, maybe I'll bend her knees. Let's go to thighs and knees here. I'm going to select these and say, pull out that rotation. Let's set a key at this place. Let's rotate these out, and I'm going to do it one at a time here. It might be easier to bend legs. That might be better. So I'll set those keys, and then let's go into the knees here. Open up these two rotations. I'm going to hit back and key the rotation of the knees at this starting spot. I'll jump forward to the next key, and let's just rotate the knees a bit. Maybe instead of the knees, I would rather do the feet. And I think it's a little bit difficult. Maybe the knees should be positioned differently instead of rotation. Let's see if I can key their positions. In order to make it look as if they're bending. Let's see if we move the knees up a little bit. And let's also do the feet. I think the feet we can rotate. So again, I'm gonna key the feet by clicking that diamond shape. And by this second key, let's fan it out a bit. And scrub through. And now here, I will stretch those knees back out. Let's again, maybe I'm going to key the position of the knees and the feet. Let's key all these positions, the thighs as well. And then only a couple seconds later, let me rotate the thigh out. To two. The knees I will bring back down. Let me select both knees. I'll just go like this. 85, and I'll type it in 485. So these are at the same position. And then also the feet, we will rotate so they're kind of pointing. And this was at 38, so I'll do this one at negative, or I guess it's positive 38. So now I have this little jump happening, but right, that I want her body to maybe move up. So I think I can do that here. Let's see if I move the whole dress, if it will move everything. And some things are parented to the dress and some things are not. So what I'm going to do instead is go back into my composition 1 here. And let me turn off the visibility on Violet 3 for a second. Or I'll actually just create a new comp altogether, and I'll nestle this Violet 2 into it. And now I will, from here, and I want to kind of have the feet be at that same position. So I'm going to, right here, key the position of the feet. We go from here to here. And let's move this whole comp down. That might be too much. What I'm going to do is just place a little bit of a guide. Oh, that's going to give me a mask. I'm going to create a new shape layer quickly. And I'm just going to create, let's change the stroke color to white for a second. I'm just going to do this. As a guide. So I'm going to use this as a guide for the feet position. Okay, so she's kind of standing on this box here. And that's too low. I'm now going to go into my graph editor here. And I would like to edit the value graph. And right here for the Y position, let's move her up a little bit more. Too far up. And it's going to kind of snap. Let's see if I can zoom in and get it to not necessarily snap. It's almost like it's not enough of, okay. So from here, I want to lower this and just kind of keep it right on this line. Even here, I'm just going to kind of tweak this. And now I want to move, once she kind of, I want her to kind of shoot up. It's key position here, and then move her up. Wrong way, other way. Now let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that's a little jumping motion. We can also edit, rather than editing, let's go back to this list, I can edit the speed graph. And what this will do is allow me to create, to use these handles to change the curve of the speed at which we jump from. And this basically will change the velocity. Let's move this up here and see if we can't change the curve of let's just see what this does. That just changed its position. I want to be able to move these handles. That's starting to do it. There's my other handle there. Right, and so this will just allow me to adjust things like velocity. So those are some ways that we can animate the characters. As far as project 2 is concerned, we want about 30 seconds of a character that's been designed and created in After Effects or Illustrator or Photoshop even, and brought into layers and components, rigged, and then have some animated motion going on with the character. The character can be a kind of humanoid form, or it can be something more simple, and you can think outside of the box on what a character is. You can focus on expressions or focus on motion. It's really up to you, but I look forward to having our individual meetings so we can kind of problem solve and troubleshoot the best way to get your character moving.